I'm never going to open this book again. Before we jump into this week's video, folks, I just thought I'd let you know about all of the things that we do that are for you and that you might not be aware of. So firstly, if you want to listen to a weekly podcast, head on over to your favorite podcast platform. We're on all of the major ones. And look for Becoming a Great GM with Guy Sklandis. Well, that's me. And that's a weekly podcast which is recorded live at 5 p.m. British Summer Time. It's about 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Thursdays. You can join in live on discord.gg/greatgm and participate in those podcasts or just listen to them on your favorite channel. And we also release a patreon.com/greatgamemaster function where you can get a private podcast that's not recorded live anywhere, is dictated by you, as well as NPC cards. Now, the NPC cards that you're seeing on screen, these come out every single month, and you get 12 NPCs and 4 adventure ideas, which you can use in your own campaigns. And you obviously get the portrait and then some OGAS information about that NPC. So a lot of useful stuff if you head on over to our Patreon. Finally, if you head on over to greatgamemaster.com, that's our website. You can find all of our books, our PDFs, our podcasts, everything that you could possibly want, as well as a whole bunch of freebies by heading on over to the website. Anyway, let's get on with Spelljammer. Hello and welcome to this week's episode. My name is Guy, and today I'm giving you my review of that recently launched, as in last week, 2022, Spelljammer book from Dungeons and Dragons. Now, there was an original release, which you can see, oh, there we go, in the background, that came out with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons many, many moons ago, and this is supposedly bringing it now into 5th edition. Except, and here's the verdict straight up, I don't think it does. Let me start by saying I love Dungeons & Dragons. I think what it has done for role-playing in general is mind-blowing. And I think that as a role-playing system, it's got problems. They all do. I think it's a lot of fun. I do, however, feel that this is the game that is going to get people to join our hobby. So we have to make sure that this flagship game is the best that it can be. And Spelljammer does not do that in the slightest. Why? Point number 1. The whole book is completely vague. Now, Dungeons & Dragons gets vague on a lot of things, spells in particular. But when a rule book comes out that has vague stuff on it that is core to the book's operation, that's when I get very irritated. And we're going to go through some of those a little bit. Now, if you will remember, a few years ago, they released Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which supposedly brought naval combat into the game. They had some cool ideas for what ships were and for how the player characters could be involved on those ships to a limited degree. I released my book, which took a step further to actually allow the crew to have fun on the ship, and so there we are. Flash forward now to Spelljammer, and they kind of ignored the rules that they created for Ghosts of Saltmarsh and said, nah, starship combat's not a big part of this game. Now, as I was looking and doing research into this, I realized I'm one of the few who's going, I expect there to be starship combat. That should be a thing. We're in space. We should be firing mangonels and ballistae across the voids at the enemies and reloading cannons and things. And then you realize that this is one of the big problems that 5th edition or 1 D&D is going to have moving forward is range. Now, when you set your campaign in space, range becomes a major thing. And they just didn't cover it. They just did not handle it. Let's start with distance. So your ship has 2 modes of travel. It's got hyperspeed, hyperdrive, warp, whatever you want to call it, where the ship moves at 100 million miles in a 24-hour period. You go, that's really fast. Well, not if you consider the size of our solar system. It would take you about, 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 days to get from the sun to Neptune. That's absolutely fine. That's some cool adventuring time where you can have lots and lots of ship-to-ship combat. Well, no, you can't, because this hyperspace that you can travel at is requirement on you not having an object nearby that generates its own gravity and air bubble. But it doesn't say how big it needs to be or how close it is in order to prevent this from happening. So we have our first major vagary. You can jump to this super ludicrous speed, unless you can't because there's something nearby. Later on in the book, they make a reference, and it's a very offhanded reference to a 1-ton object within 1 mile of the ship. And you go, okay, well, that's fine. Space is massive. It is huge. There shouldn't be that much stuff floating around. But why the vagary and buried away somewhere elsewhere in the rules rather than just being open and honest about it at the very beginning? Do you see how this is made? This, for me, is where they are rushing to get product out rather than actually playtesting it and answering fundamental, basic questions. Now, the other major problem is that when your ship is not moving at hyperspeed, your ship is moving at 40 feet around. This is a problem. The fastest ship in the book, I think, is 70 feet around. The slowest one is about 25 to 30 feet around. Don't quote me. Your weapons have range. This is problematic. If I fire a cannonball from the ship that I am on, why does it have a range of only 2,400 feet? Well, maybe that's the range at which it can be aimed. That's a problem. The range that we are given in the DMG for siege weapons, ballista, mangonels, and cannons, and so on, all requires gravity to make sense, because they kind of, I suppose, one day reference some kind of manual as to the actual distances. Except in space, you don't have those problems. If you fire a cannonball today, in 1 billion years' time, that cannonball could have continued on its pathway, covering trillions of miles, and have now entered into the orbit of a small planet, changing astrological predictions for centuries to come. There's no reason why it would stop. So if your ship is moving at 35 feet around and you're firing a cannonball which has a significantly higher velocity, you can fire it from a significantly further away distance with some accuracy. It's not like it's being pulled in different directions by stuff because, well, your ship's here, nothing else is here. So there's nothing that's going to stop it or curve it or bend it or anything along those lines. So they have a problem. Even a cannon firing at 2,500 feet is problematic for most games anyway, because it means it's going to take your ship 34 rounds to cover that distance to 0 feet to engage in ship-to-ship combat, which, by the way, the book explicitly states as being something that's preferable to actually running space-to-space combat, ship-to-ship combat. They literally say, no, just get close enough so that you can board each other and then have the PCs fight each other, because that's going to be the fun way to run space combat, is just by turning the spaceships into dungeons, and then their dungeons fly apart. It makes me livid that you invent a system or not, and then you just ignore it, and you go, oh, it's fine. Okay, so what are the PCs going to be doing on these ships, apart from waiting for the two ships to sail next to each other, whilst not using ranged weapons, which any sentient species would be utilizing? No, the PCs are going to just wait. Oh, but one of them gets to be a cool spelljammer and drive the ship. No, not really. The armor class remains static, and the ship automatically avoids any kind of space debris out there, so you can fly into an asteroid field with impunity, because the ship will take care of avoiding all that kind of rubbish. Okay, alright, fine. So what are the PCs doing on the ship? Well, they're waiting. They're waiting for the 2,500 feet to close so that they get within the spell range or bow range, because again, a projectile fired from a bow is not going to cover any significant distance. It's going to get bored en route and stop moving. Okay, so the PC is going to just wait. Yes, that's it. And they're going to breathe air. Yes, the PCs will breathe air. Okay, good. Do the ships generate air? No. They don't generate air. They've got an air bubble around them. This is according to the official rules. And that air bubble extends out of the ship a little bit, like gravity does. Okay, great. But the air bubble runs out. Oh, how long? No, we're not going to tell you that. That's the secret. Okay, but we will tell you that after 121 days, the air becomes foul, and then you become poisoned. Ah, okay. And then after 120 days of that, the air becomes deadly, and then you can't breathe it. Oh, you mean like vacuum? No, just deadly air. Oh, all right. That's fine. But how long does it take us to run out of air? No. We're not going to tell you that. That's the secret. Those 121 days, does it apply to the scale of the ship? Does a bigger ship have a longer amount of air if there's only less crew? No. Don't be silly. Don't ask questions like that. We're not going to include that information. Okay, well, what about food and resources? Do we have to keep track of food and things for the crew? No. Don't be silly. You're going to be spending 10 days traveling between one star and the furthest planet, but don't worry about that. that. Worry about the air that's going to run out in an unpredictably large amount of time. All right, that's fine. Okay, well, what if our ship gets damaged? Can we fix it? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can fix it. Okay, good. How much can we fix? 1 hit point a day in a space dock. Our 300-point ship is going to take us a year to repair. Okay, that's a good rule. That's great, because the PCs shouldn't be on ships anyway, because combat shouldn't really happen in space. Don't be silly, it's not a space game. It's Dungeons and Dragons. They should be in a dungeon, and there's no ships in dungeons, silly. Why were you buying this book? What a fool I was for buying this book. So, okay, now use the mending spell, which very specifically says as long as the hole is not bigger than a meter. Okay, the last time I saw a ship shot at by a cannonball, the hole was slightly bigger than a meter. But the book says that you can use mending to speed up the healing process and restore up to 24 hit points in a day. Okay, so it's still going to take us a good 15 to 20 days to repair our ship if it's been really badly damaged. Because, of course, the ship will still operate at 1 hit point. This is Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, good. So the ships take forever to heal or repair. They randomly lose oxygen after a certain amount of time. They don't have to worry about food and water and that sort of thing. We don't have to worry about that. Okay, good. And then they travel at ridiculous speeds. All right, fine. Okay, surely this is all right. Well, no, because the rules that we wrote for other rule books are no longer applied to this one. And the articles that were released on D&D Beyond or on other official websites is more entertaining, better written, more thought out, and better presented, as a matter of fact, in a semi-cohesive way than the actual book itself. All right, well, once you get finished reading the book, and it's really quick to do that, by the way, because the book is actually almost less content than the original release that came out. Okay, so we're going to not write very much. We're not going to put very much effort into it. We'll get some great art. That's one of the bonuses, I think. We'll release a bestiary. That'll flesh it out. No, not really, because the bestiary is full of things that we already had, or of things that you go. I don't even know how to pronounce that. There's too many nouns right next to each other, or vowels, or consonants, or there's it doesn't make sense. No, that's fine, because the whole book doesn't make sense. So we'll keep on that theme. All right, so then that's the bestiary. Good. Anything exciting? It's a thing. All right. What about the adventure? The adventure is actually fun, right up until the point that they have ship-to-ship combat, and literally it is, the captain says, "Oh, we can't outrun them." Why not? They are 1,000 feet away. Oh, because they're more than a ton and they're within a mile, so we have to travel at relative speed. Okay, so literally any ship passing any other ship is going to cause us to jump out of this space. Okay, so that's going to be a major dampener on shipping. But aside from that, we can't outrun them because their speed and our speed is both 35 feet, but they're going to catch up with us somehow? Well, no, actually, there's just literally no mechanic for you to actually ever escape from a pursuing vessel if you have the same speed, because you can't jump. And even if you did, we all travel at 100 million miles a day anyway, so we'd just be able to follow you wherever we're going. Do you see the problem here, folks? They have a lot of material that you would want to be in the book, that you would expect to be in the book. There is so much stuff there that could be in the book, and yet they have chosen not to include any of it because it opens up a can of worms in terms of requiring them to add in extra mechanics. Now, I have a problem with this. Literally, the book is worthless. It doesn't offer you anything of value at all. It says, here's a wooden platform with some mangonels on that are going to take 3 rounds to fire. In the 30 rounds that it's going to take for the ships to get to within effective range of each other, you can do that for a bit. Neither ship is going to destroy the other one, and then you have personnel combat. That's all that this book is adding. It doesn't even have rules on what happens when you're exposed in a vacuum? Oh, you start suffocating. What about the freezing? No. That's it. I'm done. This is a long video already about me telling you there is nothing of value in these books. I couldn't find it. It was literally a purchase of $50+ and I went, for what? I got an adventure that's vaguely interesting up until the point that it enters into space. At which point then everyone just wanders around for a bit until they get off of the ship and get onto land. That's it. That's it for this video. I hope I missed something. Please, in the comments down below, tell me what I missed. Let me know. I need to understand why someone thought that this was worth releasing. Because at the moment, I'm never going to open this book again. And that's sad. Because we want these books to be awesome. The hobby will only grow and be better if these books are awesome. Anyway. Massive thank you to you for watching all the way through the end, and to our wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Patreons who keep us going. And if you haven't checked out our Patreon, well, then you skipped the first half of this video. Anyway, until next time, I wish you and yours the very happiest of gaming.